Oh, Brady. Brady. Earlier yesterday, we made a video commentary talking about what Frank Seravalli and David Pagnotta said about Ottawa Senators captain Brady Tkachuk and the idea of him getting moved from the Sens. It was a pretty big deal, and according to what Pagnotta was saying on his own program, he wouldn't be surprised if Brady's name entered the trade market. Add him to the list of American captains that could be on the move back to the USA. Quinn Hughes already got it done. Austin Matthews could be next. Brady could be following in short order. But in this video, we're going to be diving into one of these hypothetical scenarios that seems to make the most sense, and it's a conversation that's been stirred up on social media throughout various platforms. I wanted to give a big shout out over to John from Hot Take Hockey. Not only is he a great fantasy hockey league commissioner, but he also does some pretty good work on YouTube, making videos, talking about NHL news, and then, of course, doing his patented live streams. He does a very good job, and John is one of the best in the biz at what he does. He went out there and made this tweet a few days ago after the Ottawa Senators got eliminated from the playoffs. It's a list of Florida Panthers forwards, and there are some pretty notable additions. Take a look at the three names in black that Florida could potentially add to their team. You have Patrik Laine on a line with fellow Finn Alex Barkov and Sam Reinhart. You have Brady Tkachuk on a line with Sam Bennett and Matthew Tkachuk. You have a trio of guys that are already Florida Panthers and Carter Verhaeghe, Evan Rodriguez, and Brad Marchand. And then you have a fourth line, which includes Jonah Gadjevich, Jesper Boqvist, and Fabian Zetterlund. This is a pretty interesting look at what the Florida Panthers could look like, and he says it's Tkachuk times 2. This post had 100,000 views, 200 likes, 59 replies. Evan Dickinson Nordic went out there and said, "Hey, Patrik Laine, this is the elephant in the room, isn't he?" A Panthers fan then responds, "LMAO, you think Anton Lundell and Luosterainen are gone for Brady? Bro, get out of here." I love the passion. I'm a big fan of Anton Lundell's game. Now, I wanted to talk about this tweet, not because John is going out there and giving some super incredible insider information, but because John proposes a pretty great idea. And it's one that I think a lot of fans of Ottawa Senators hockey, as well as just regular NHL hockey, can potentially envision as well. If Brady Tkachuk were to get traded to any team, especially a team in the USA, wouldn't the Florida Panthers make the most sense here? I mean, you think about what happened this season in Florida. They stunk. They're currently in the 8th overall spot for the projected 2026 NHL Entry Draft, and there is a chance that they can move up depending on if they win a lottery or two. You also have this idea that says Florida could use this 8th overall pick or 1st or 2nd overall pick, depending on if it goes that high, to make a big swing trade for a big name player. We already acknowledge the fact that the Florida Panthers, despite the fact that they are $8 million over the cap right now, they've got $5.4 million in current cap space, and this is a team that only really needs to re-sign guys that admittedly aren't very important. Sorry AJ Greer, sorry Hinostroza, Nosek, and the like. Sorry Sergei Bobrovsky, whose $10 million AAV contract comes to an end. But all this to say is that the Florida Panthers don't really have to worry about money. And when you think about the fact that Florida is a tax-free state, a lot of players can go over to the Panthers for cheaper contracts and they can still take home a significant amount of money. There are built-in advantages that Florida has that they have and will continue to take advantage of. Brady Tkachuk isn't in a position to renegotiate his contract at the moment, but he will be soon. His $8.2 million a year deal expires at the end of 2028, meaning that he has 2 more seasons after this completed one to get his business done with the Sens. If there already is a notion internally that Brady could be asking out, as we have seen with guys like David Pagnotta and Frank Seravalli, then wouldn't Florida make the most sense here? Reunite him with his brother, just get the chaos together, give that first-round pick over to Ottawa, and, I don't know, maybe include a Zetterlund or a Lundell or whatever have you in the trade itself. But I also wanted to talk about that guy on the first line, Patrik Laine. John's projection on the Twitter post says that Laine would sign a $3 million one-year deal with Florida to play with Barkov and to play with Reinhart. Here's the thing, I don't know necessarily if you need 2 right-handed snipers on the same line, but Patrik Laine has a lot to prove. Here's the thing with Montreal. Patrik Laine only played 5 games in the regular season. Assuming things stay the way they have, if Montreal wins the Stanley Cup, Laine is not even going to get his name on the cup. He's got to play some playoff games. He's got to play a finals game. He did not qualify for Stanley Cup etching the name into the actual medal itself based off of his regular season games. He only had 5. This is a guy who took essentially the entire year off because he was hurt and then he was not good enough to make the lineup. So what better way to go out there and revive your career than to sign with the Florida Panthers on a cheap contract, potentially play with your fellow Finn and Alexander Barkov, who is going to be back, and also get that double-time snipage ability with Sam Reinhart on the opposite side. Here's a tweet made by Adam, AGBR Sports, communications assistant for the Atlanta Gladiators. He went out there and said, I'm glad someone else said it, but I also think the Florida Panthers could take a stab at Patrik Laine for 1 year at a low AAV. Bounce back contract, and I think Barkov could fix him. If you're a Montreal Canadiens fan, would you be interested in seeing some sort of a Patrik Laine transition over to Florida? You know, Patrik Laine himself would probably be okay with it. I mean, it seems like the guy is totally fine with going places that are the total opposite of what Winnipeg was. And ultimately, seeing that he didn't really want to stick it out in Columbus, seeing that he liked it in Montreal but just wasn't good enough to play, if he goes over to Florida, then that could be a pretty big morale booster for him and his spouse. Not to mention the fact that the opportunity of playing with Barkov would potentially ignite something new within Laine. The guy hasn't had a good NHL season, quote-unquote, for a while. Even last season, 33 points, 52 games. Yes, he had 20 goals. Yes, he had scored power play goals like crazy, but he was hurt throughout the course of the year. It wasn't a great season for him. And maybe all that's needed here is a trip down south to a Florida Panthers team that has already used the services of other players in Patrik Laine's mold. I'm thinking of the Vladimir Tarasenkos of the world, guys that just make their bread and butter by scoring goals. We have seen what Sam Reinhart has become as a product of the Florida Panthers and their system. It's working a lot better here than it did in Buffalo. Going back over to this tweet posted by Adam, you do realize that Lundell and Eetu Luostarinen aren't there, right? That would be a terrible trade for the franchise. Yanni Blomqvist asks, why on earth should the Panthers sign Laine? He is a defensive liability whose only talent is his shot. I wouldn't touch on Laine with a 10-foot pole. He is out of the league immediately when the Canadian season is done. Laine plays in Europe next season, not the NHL. Adam said on a cheap contract? 1 year? Why not? If anyone can help him regain his magic, it would be Barkov and the rest of the Finns, who unfortunately don't happen to be there. There is no Luostarinen, there is no Lundell, but I think the assumption is they would get traded for Brady Tkachuk or what have you. So with all that said, you can let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. How do you feel about this potential transaction? A Brady Tkachuk trade to Florida, does that make sense in your mind? Patrik Laine leaving Montreal for the Panthers, does that make sense in your mind? How do you feel about all this stuff? Let me know in the comment section your opinions. I hope you enjoyed this video. Shout out to John from Hot Take Hockey once again for posting about it. And bye.